Welcome back to Glow Up or Get Out. I'm half the podcast, Sam.
I'm the other half, Mel.
Welcome back, you guys. Today we are going to be talking about true crime. And suddenly we're a true crime podcast. Yep. That's it. That's all we're going to do now. That's it.
Tune in every week. Just kidding.
We're not made for that. There's people who do it probably way better than we can and would. So no. We're just talking about true crime because we are true crime girls. And I think there's just a lot to be said about the true crime space and, you know, what's been done with it and where we're at currently. So stay tuned to hear all about it.
So just starting off, I think like true crime has become such a huge facet of the internet. I think that it's definitely been something that's of interest to people because all of these shows that existed, like CSI, Miami, CSI, whatever the fuck, Dateline, and 2020, and like all of these shows that have been on television and on like cable have now just become in a different form on the internet now. And like there's creators who focus their entire channels and content on that. So it's just really grown, I think, within the last like 10 years. I still remember like not the day, but like the time in which people started to like come up so quickly just from doing these videos.
I remember Bella Fiore specifically. She did makeup and then she started shifting to one day a week making her content true crime. Yeah. And I feel like it probably helped her grow significantly.
Yeah. She became like a channel about true crime. More than makeup, I think. Yeah.
Where's Bella Fiore?
Yeah, where you at, girl?
I saw she was traveling recently, but where's the content? She's tired of it. But anyways, with content creation in general, it just allows people to do what they want with content, and it has, you know, leaked into every space, including true crime. I think there's two facets to the true crime content and community. One being helpful and, you know, law enforcement appreciating the support and the communities appreciating the support and just getting the word out there.
Yeah, like educational
too, not just like solving specific cases, but just helping people be more educated and make smarter decisions. And then the other facet being misinformation, glorifying and like basically just entertainment value, having no empathy for the victims, things like that, which like I think it can be said that crime in general and psychology, the mental psyche of people, is interesting. It's fascinating, but it should never be like entertainment when there's victims and people's lives involved. And I feel like that's really hard to grasp when we have so much content available to us that it is so normalized. It's so just like, oh, I'm going to listen to another episode about someone getting murdered. Yeah. It's like, whoa, let me sit back for a second. Like, that person died.
Yeah, I think it's definitely become like a desensitization a little bit of the reality of what happened behind like this story. Yeah. Because it's like we're no longer just seeing these like crazy things on like news. Yeah, it's become something that like everybody can now talk about. Yeah. And there's like unlimited stories because obviously crime is like never gonna go away, but like yeah, you get desensitized for sure, and it becomes a fucking issue because then you even sit there and you're like, I've just listened to this. I feel like I went through a period of time where I would literally, that's what my entertainment was. Like, I would listen to those things when I was doing my makeup or, like, cleaning the house. And, like, it consumed me so much. And I think that I definitely had to take a step back and be like, these are real people. Not that I, like, didn't think that. It was just more so, like, I consumed it in a way that it was just more, like, it felt like a story versus a real person. And that really takes away from it all, I guess.
Yeah. Hard to probably find that balance as a creator because obviously, like, okay, we're going to talk about later, I think, like, our favorite creators and why and our favorite not favorite, our most memorable stories. And I think it's really hard to find the balance of like, as a creator, being like logistical and fact oriented and whatever, or having personality and bringing your personality and conversation into it. Because like some people will joke like, girl, you should have got the fuck out of there or something, you know, whatever to that effect. And that's like part of the desensitization, but it's also like part of making it consumable, which like, I don't know, maybe there's something to be said that it shouldn't be consumed, but then there's the educational value. I think there's just like this like angel and devil on your shoulders, like listening to true crime. You're like, you're learning so much. It's so informative. And wow, that's crazy that happened. And I hope I never meet someone like that. And then there's the other side, like, wow, someone lost their life and I'm just listening. Or not even lost their life, but is traumatized forever by something, or lost a family member or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's like the gist of that battle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think more on like the personality aspect, like it's hard to like, I think at the same time though, like you have, if you enjoy, or I guess like, again, like I feel guilty saying enjoy. Like consuming that content, but like if that's content you like to watch or like listen to, 'cause,
I mean, it's enjoy, honestly.
Yeah, like
I feel
it like I almost feel like it's helpful to have personality and like lightness to it because it's such a dark topic, and I think that things don't always have to be so like grim and in a way, you know what I mean? I think there's a respectful way to balance out the two.
Yeah.
And having things be digestible so that people can understand and learn and watch out for signs. Because at the end of the day, I think it's really empowering when in some of the cases that like the public has a huge part as like to why they survived or solved the crime. And like, yeah, it's just interesting.
Okay, this might be morbid to say or like think about, but like if I were to die and like I was on like my story was on a podcast, I think, there's like a balance of respect. Like you don't have to be so factual and nasty and just like, you know, like you could talk about the person. Like I feel like that's also part of it. Like when they just kind of are gory.
Yeah, when they only talk about like
the actual
case itself versus like, I think that's a big part of the people that we enjoy is they give background
on who the person was.
Yeah. And also even sometimes giving background on the criminal themselves. And
very
like
interesting.
Where their psyche has like developed and like come to this journey of feeling the need to hurt somebody else.
That's what I'm saying. It's so interesting.
Yeah.
And like, it's this guilt that you feel bad, but like obviously I'm sure true crime has numbers up there, like in podcasting and creation of probably growing in the millions, if not billions of listeners. So it's not like it's a bad thing that we enjoy listening and learning and whatever, but it does feel like a little bit weird sometimes. Like you just listen to too much of it and you're like, oh fuck, like I've been listening to murder every single day. And recently I was on a trip and my cousin's friends were talking about true crime. And we're like, the conversation was like over. We talked about like 2 stories or something. And then this girl that was also there just like really dug in deep and was like, you could tell she was like a fanatic. Like she was like fascinated and almost like really desensitized because she was just like, oh yeah, he did this, and that. And like, it was a very gruesome this, and that. And we were just like, oh, like this was like a casual true crime convo, not like a, wow, that's grim. So yeah, I think there are like fanatics out there that maybe take it too far, but they're just really fascinated. I don't know.
Maybe the fascination comes from like feeling in control of like the narrative or understanding.
Like you can prevent it.
Because you can, like you thinking you can prevent it. Or at least like watching out for signs and helping other people. I think those gruesome details don't necessarily have to be like discussed like so heavily.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's like that shit, like I think about like the person's family or even that person hearing the stuff that happened to them. Not a true crime story what I'm going to talk about, but like when Travis the monkey literally like ripped that woman's face off, talking to her about those things or around her, like that stuff, like I feel like is just so
sensitive.
It's just not good to over discuss. Like, we all know what fucking happened. We don't need to
visualize it.
Unless you're out here, like, telling the full story, like, on the podcast, I guess. Even then, I think it's just, like, you can say something without having to say it all. Because what the important parts are, if you're trying to prevent something, that's not what you're trying to prevent. You're trying to prevent the actual capture.
You're not going to prevent once it's happening.
Yeah. But I think it's, like, it comes from, like, a control sense of, like,
yeah,
I know that I'm not going to get in that situation because, you know, which you don't know, but
yeah. I think true crime too has like a notorious rep of women being the most interested listeners.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I don't really know any men who know true crime the way the women in my life do.
Yeah.
Like, if I bring up a story, they're like, yeah, oh my God, no way. Yeah, I remember that. Or, did you believe that person got caught? Like, I could go up to probably any woman and be like, Did you hear
about this? It's literally, like, not surprising at all, though.
No, I mean, we're the ones trying to protect ourselves the most. Men feel like they're invincible, which they're not, but they just have way less fear because they're less likely the targets.
And that's interesting because I feel like more recently I have found that, like, men who, like, talk about true crime have only really been talking about, like, Jeffrey Dahmer. And he, like, purposefully went after men and boys. And I feel like that's because it's relevant to them. You know what I mean?
Oh, I hear you. Like, they only talk about cases that are relevant to them.
Which it just, like, in totality makes sense because true crime, most victims are women. And so here we are trying to...
We're babies, kids, and we're like...
We're the nurturing aspect of life,
empathy and all that. Yeah, I don't know what it is about men not liking the story. I guess, is it literally just comes down to, like,
them not being worried about
I think so. About coming into contact with true crime. Like, what?
I think it's like, A, like, I can beat them up. I won't get captured. And then B, like,
it's not gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen to me because I'm not.
Well, I think everyone has that, like, it's not gonna happen to me mindset. You know what I mean? You never think I'm gonna get in a car accident. I'm not gonna get in a whatever. So I think that does stand, but it's also like, I think women have in the back of their heads like, it might though.
That's like a topic that we, like, wanted to discuss before, is like the fear of being a woman and, like, all of this little, like, nuances that we, like, go through and situations we come up with in our heads about, like, checking the back seat every time we get into a car, or, like, looking around and seeing if, like, there's anybody sketchy. Like, men don't do that. So, like, I think it makes sense why, like, women are the most, like, listeners and viewers and just people consuming that content.
What I just thought about, though, is very interesting that, so I was going to your apartment yesterday and there was this guy walking towards me as I was walking towards your gate, and he looked like a worker, like a maintenance guy or something, and he passed your apartment and went to the house next door. And I wasn't really paying much attention to him, but I saw him. And then I, like, looked to my right to look at him. And he looked like he was, like, bent. Like, he looked sketchy. I don't know what he was doing. And he goes, "Hi," like, all awkwardly. And I was like, I don't like that. Like, I need to get inside this apartment because what the fuck is that? And then I just, like, scenario, I'm like, he's not really a maintenance guy. He's pretending he's trying to get in that house. He's trying to rob them. He's trying blah, 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 blah. Like, he's going to freaking kill us all. I don't know. But then I think on the flip side, if I was a man, maybe I'm in just, you know, making assumptions here. If I was a man, potentially I'd be thinking, like, he's trying to break into that guy's house and, like, that's property. Like, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the property, not me. Like, I don't think he's going to hurt me. Right. But he's going to fuck up that property and I should call the cops because I'm looking out for that person.
Yeah.
Which is just like, God, that's what men do. Like, if there's a creepy guy or a car parked in front of my house, my dad's instantly on that shit because he's, like, worried they're going to break into the house.
Versus, like, hurt somebody.
Like, obviously hurt us if he gets in the house, but, or, like, if I'm walking around.
But it's like, they're thinking about the break-in. You're thinking about, he's gonna hurt me, or that person's gonna hurt me, you know?
My immediate thought is more so that my dad's more so like,
they're gonna break in and do something in the house. I don't know what they're gonna do.
I don't know what they're gonna do. That's the worst part. They can't even get that far.
They're just gonna break in.
I don't know, but I think it's super interesting that women love true crime, and I'm here for it. Let's all be educated. I think the best thing that came out of it was my mom, my sister-in-law, and my sister and I all have like our little if I go missing folder.
Dude, I need one of those.
You need one of those. And it's just like passwords to like important things like your phone password, your Instagram password, your banking password.
Do you, because you know you have to like obviously change your password sometimes. Do you go back in and like
well, we only did it last year, so I haven't had to change it yet, but I should. I should be making mental notes of that. But obviously only give those to people you trust, because we don't want people getting into your banking information and snooping around. But yeah, I mean, the educational value is there.
I think a little like tidbit that we want to go on into is like going deeper into how things can be either helpful or hinder like investigations. I feel like when true crime started on the internet, it was very much about things in the past.
Like long
time ago, like unsolved cases that just like were extremely unpleasant and like really...
Or like notable.
Yes, things like that. But like more in the recent years, I think it's become...
current
and people like
this person is missing and that's my brother and I need to find them.
And it's very interesting that like more so the big name podcasters and content creators of like the space are renowned, and like they actually are the ones who like families reach out to for like their audience to help out and stuff. It's just so interesting. But
like, what a tool.
Yeah, it's just a tool now, which is really cool. Like we said, I think like depending on how it's done, there could be a lot of misinformation. I can see it being more helpful than it is harmful. But I think, I don't know if I want to like name the certain case, but I think we all know which one we're talking about in the more like this last year, like Gabby Petito. I'm just gonna say it. I think like a lot of misinformation was just like spewed out, and I think it's just more so because like the community itself, I think, is very aware of like how to speak about information and when to receive it and when they can like say it, and when
community
like the public
of creators or just the
whole community. But I think with like a case like that, it became so big that everybody had an output and like an input, I should say, and like was spreading all of this information. Some of it was true, some of it obviously was just storytelling and trying to like make, I guess, like not drama, but like making the situation more... It
was also just
intense.
Like how many videos do we really need from the same group aged of people talking about the same thing with no information? Like, I can only imagine as a detective or like someone trying to solve the case, like FBI agents, they're looking at this stuff because it's part of their job. Like, someone's posting a new video, maybe it has some solid leads in it. Like, now they have to watch this shit and it's like, you reported nothing new. Like, you're just, and did you make that up? Now I need to go follow that lead and see if that was even factual. I need to message them. Like, it's creating more work rather than resolving it. So, like, I think people who go in with the intention of, like, I want to become famous because I made this video
and
or
that's
whatever.
Another facet of thing of, like, being really hurtful is, like, if you're just using, like, somebody's case that's, like, very fucking awful. Like... You know, that's somebody's life and you're trying to gain either fame or money like from it. That's just, your priorities are a little skewed.
Obviously, like the leaders in the content creating for true crime, like they've probably been there, done that, exploited a few families or whatever. So it does suck to say like leave it to them, because I don't think there's ever like a time where you can say there's no room for anyone new, because there's, I think, always. But it's also like, just don't have the wrong intentions about it. Like, especially with something so heavy. I mean, if you're going to do old cases, okay, do old cases. But, like, especially current things, that's when you need to be, like, extra sensitive, because the cops are still investigating shit like this. You can't just be throwing out information. But, I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of the information that was given and, you know, looked into, they ended up finding some really solid leads from, and eventually solving it. I'm not gonna say that the community solved the case, because that's not really probably true, but that vlogging family who had footage of their van, like stuff like that, it's insane. Like, just the little things, like she was a vlogger, so they knew a lot about her. There was so much like interesting information about her. And then like this family who's conveniently also a vlogging family, like happens to get footage of it. Like these little chance things because of where we're at in the internet.
Yeah.
Like solves crimes. Is that not just like insane?
I mean, if we think about it, it's just like before, like we said, we had all these other like crime or true crime like shows or the news, like, yeah, or like America's Most Wanted, like that stuff, you know what I mean? Like we had that, and that was the way that the public can see all of that information and get some leads. But now we're just on a more expanded like note, and like there's so much information.
Every single platform can be a way of sourcing information, which is helpful and hurtful. But
I mean, but it's always been that way too, so it's not really. I think it's an interesting concept is like what is it like on the detective side of like trying to gain information from public,
and they have to do it very specific. Like Criminal Minds, that was like my baby starting steps into like true crime and like understanding that process. And then, like, what was the show on Netflix that was about the criminal minds? Like, the guy who created...
Mindhunters?
Yeah, Mindhunters. So, like, we're pretty new into, like, really solving crimes and getting good at knowing criminals. But the communities are out here helping solve crimes. But, yeah, I think we'll probably talk more on that in, like, Glowing Hour.
Yeah. I think I have one more point of, like, with all of this new desire to consume this content and wanting to figure out crimes and like all that shit, obviously, like we said, there's a lot of helpful shit, but there's also been like a lot of glamorization of the murderers themselves and the criminals themselves.
Oh, right.
As we all know, like I think now it's just become a thing to make money from, and like big companies have been creating their own like versions and storytelling based on like what these murderers did. Obviously like bigger names and bigger like serial killers and stuff, but
it's like just make a movie based on these ideas or something, because those are like it's real, like real stories. So if you're inspired, as sick as that is, from these stories, like go do it, and if it's good enough, you'll make money without the big name, basically. Yeah, like it's using the name that's like
I don't know where I lie in like all of that, because I have like obviously consumed things that like recent shows that we all know, but like at the same time I feel like in this kind of space maybe only documentaries should be like allowed
for true crime.
Like I think reinterpretations and dramatizations of things, I don't know that that's like so sensitive to like the victims and stuff.
I think it would be really interesting to have a conversation about that with like a wide group of people, but one that I can think of that I feel like was done well, I'm like thinking more deeply about it because it's been a while since I watched it, but The Staircase on HBO. I feel like, I mean, to a degree, it's a dramatization, so they had to make up things, I'm guessing.
That's a very interesting case in general towards this topic, because I just said documentaries are probably the only thing you should make, or a docu-series.
Yeah.
The quote-unquote criminal himself
made a documentary,
and that's also like not necessarily good. He's exploiting his own thing, and also like trying to create his own narrative. So like
there's a lot.
And then the show actually made him look more guilty than the documentary. So that's just like interesting. Yeah. So it's just like there was a nuance there with like
there's no right or wrong.
Maybe, I don't know. I really don't.
We don't think so. Yeah, I think that was like a really interesting one, because especially ones that are unsolved or like you're unsure.
You're like, that's
which
sketchy.
We'll talk about into that. But yeah, I agree. I think it's like a very tricky topic to walk upon, and not that you can't talk about it with other people tricky, but just like as a society, where do we stand? Yeah. Like what is too far and what is educational and informative?
I just feel like if you're inspired, weird, but if you're inspired by like a case, creating a story not directly about the person,
like the exact things,
but like create, because like we all enjoy watching scary movies and like watching shows about murders and psychological like people who have like mental issues, like all of that is very interesting. I get it, but I think like directly taking somebody from a case and people from like victims from those cases and creating stories or like a dramatization of it is just...
But also, like, there's power in that too. You know what I mean? I think involving the victims, that is what brings more power.
I think there's a right way to do it, maybe.
Maybe that's it. Like,
yeah. Involve people who were there. Or like,
yeah.
You know? Yeah. Like,
especially if you're like Netflix, like, you got money.
Which one was it that like had like some of the victims who like got away? It was the one who was like really, I mean, they're all charismatic, but like the one that was really charismatic.
Oh, Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy.
They had real
victims come back, like, and like who got away, or like who he tried and they like were sketched out, so they left. That type of situation. I think that was interesting because like it brought perspective on like what it was actually like to, you know,
interact with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is probably a right and a wrong way. It's just like, as a society, where do we stand? Where do we draw the line? We're all making it up as we go, so...
I think besides, like, true crime, like, exploiting somebody's story and not either paying them, involving them, or asking for permission is just not right.
Or having empathy in the general message.
Yeah.
Moving into Glowing Hour, I think we want to discuss some of the most memorable cases and then some creators that we enjoy. And hopefully they don't cross any boundaries. We don't know, but we'll see you there. We're back. And today we are drinking an old fashioned, which I was unaware that there's like basically no mixer in it. It's just
straight whiskey breath.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, it's kind of giving like detective vibes right now.
This is what the detectives are drinking
late
at night.
Like a cigarette. You're like,
I mean, let's try it. Yeah, wow.
It made me warm.
Wow. I mean, flavor-wise, it's good.
It's good. Just
thanks, Dad. This is good whiskey, but
just a bit strong.
Wow. Okay, moving on. Memorable cases. I think as a society, we have quite a few. Just based on public figures, the fascination, and the way the cases unfolded. I think for me personally, the first one that comes to mind is O.J. Simpson.
Yep.
You know? And they did a show on his... They did a lot. They did a lot of things. And wow. I gotta say, one of them I did watch a while. Like, I was in high school probably. And they showed...
like photos?
Like real crime scene photos.
Yeah, I think I've seen whatever you're talking about because I have those in my brain right now.
Yeah, and I'm like, wow, that was maybe a step too far. But like,
is it?
God, I don't know, you know? So, anyways, I think OJ is a huge one for obvious reasons. I don't think there's even a need to
discuss
explain the context.
It's just interesting that that's like also just like one that's notable? Continuously like, I don't know, you know,
who did it.
One that I can think of that's like more on like the spooky side that's like unsolved is the murder of the Black Dahlia and how her body was like left. It was very just gives me like
the creeps,
the fucking shivers.
Yeah, I think those are the most fascinating. Unsolved are frustrating as fuck because, you know, you want everything tied up in a pretty little bow. Like missing people especially.
Oh, that's it.
That's a lot. Like missing, how do people just go missing, you know? They do. Well, they don't, but
they do. We already said this one, but in more recent years, or like last year, the Gabby Petito case.
That one was also, it's just like epitome of today, like society and where we're at. And yeah, Casey Anthony is supposedly getting a documentary.
Yeah, that was like announced like yesterday.
Yeah,
or 2 days ago.
Is it Lifetime who's
Peacock.
doing it? Oh, Peacock is doing it.
Peacock is doing a documentary on Casey Anthony. I don't know if everyone feels this way, but who the fuck needs to hear from this bitch anymore? I'm sorry, but like,
wasn't she in hiding? Like, stay in hiding then.
The thing is, I think like within like, and this is another nuance of like this new age of like having a community of true crime people who like not only speak on the victims but also try to understand where the murderers or the criminals are in like a mental state. Mm-hmm. I think she feels comfortable enough to come out now and like has people who can empathize or can hear her like, I'm sorry, but like a sob story.
But I think she's still gonna say she's innocent.
I think she's gonna allude to the fact that maybe, not necessarily say like I'm guilty, but I think she's gonna come maybe out and say something
like
about,
I wasn't the best mom.
Like I wasn't the best mom.
Which we know,
bitch.
We're very well aware.
You hurt your child. So I think she'll allude to something. Like she will admit to something for her own fucking guilty pleasure. You know, like she's going to want to get rid of some guilt and shame from within herself. And now there's an audience that's ready to hear this type of stuff or is interested at least. Mm-hmm. In the very least. You know what I mean? Which like,
to be fair, yeah, I'm interested, you know? Like, what do you have to say?
Yeah.
Like, she knows that we're like, what do you have to say? Whether we're angry watching or, like,
yeah, they either excited. Hate watching or watching it to, like,
feel sorry for her, whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That case fucks me up.
Yeah.
There's a similar case. I forgot. I think it was, trying to think of the
little girl that was taken from her hotel room?
No, but that one's also very memorable. Mm-hmm. What was that one called?
I don't remember her name, but I remember the case, which is unfortunate that I don't remember her name.
Yeah. That one was like an international one too, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. Something to touch on. The U.S.
The U.S.
A lot of crime.
Lots of crime.
Not that the U.K. doesn't or anywhere else.
Speaking of another one, the girl who went to Italy.
Oh, Amanda Knoxville.
Amanda Knox.
Knoxville? Johnny
Knoxville. Amanda Knox.
Yeah.
Bitch was from Seattle.
I think she didn't do it. Personally.
She was on a podcast recently and I think the same. But like, it's just...
Not you keeping up the...
But it's sketchy, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Can you imagine being on that side of like, I didn't do it. And the whole, like, there's enough evidence to like create doubt.
I think also this is like maybe not, I don't want to say she was not smart enough to like fucking fabricate this whole thing in a way that like works out for her. I think it just sounded like too much fucking work
for her to
do all that. Yeah. Like you would really have to hate who you were with to do something in that way. Or you're just fucking crazy.
Some people are, yeah, I mean, but you never know, but.
The one I was thinking of, I forgot what.
It's a little girl?
It's a little boy who was... It was similar to the Gypsy Rose case where his mom at the time... Huh?
His mom has Munchausen's?
Yes. Her last name was something Spears. Like her name and then Spears. I can't remember. I recently listened to it. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, Lacey Spears.
Lacey Spears. I'm not sure I've heard that one.
I forgot what her child's name was.
See, and that's another thing. Some of the notoriety is in the criminal.
Never
and not
the
victims. Yeah.
That's really true. Oh, her kid's name was Garnett.
Garnett.
Yeah, what is it called again?
Munchausen's.
Mm-hmm. I never would think of that.
It's just
with an M.
Yeah.
But before she had a child, though, she was taking care of these kids. And she would like offer her babysitting basically for free, which like sketchy in my opinion.
Yeah, what the?
And like she would take care of them, which was fine, but these kids were starting to get like ear infections every time they were with her, and the parents wouldn't put it together, and then when they did, she would like just go and do it to a different family.
Oh, I need to go now.
Yeah, and she'd do it to a different family until finally she just like was like, I don't want to take care of anybody else's kid anymore. I want to have my own kid. And she orchestrated herself to get pregnant in a very like specific way.
That's how you know you're very ill.
Yeah.
Like super premeditated.
Not to like be like dig too deep on her side, but like she was abandoned a lot as a kid. And so like
sometimes they get into that backstory.
I think it's important because like
the backstory is important.
No one is just crazy. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe.
No. I mean,
for the most part, though, everything comes back to trauma. That case, though, fucked me up.
Yeah.
I think children cases really...
Yeah. I mean, JonBenet.
JonBenet. That's also
very notable. Do you think it was the brother?
Yeah, I think the parents.
And the parents covered up.
Yep.
Crazy how we just
I hate that, like, there's a conspiracy about, like, it being culty, and, like, the dad was, like, in a cult and, like, sacrificed her and shit.
See where people take it? Which maybe it's
dumb.
True.
Maybe it's true. I don't fucking know.
I'm not trying to say anything. The Petersons, and I'm saying the Petersons because there's so many Petersons that have killed. What Petersons?
Yeah.
Lacey Peterson.
Why is that?
He killed his wife, his pregnant wife.
Oh.
The staircase guy, his last name is Peterson.
Yeah.
I forgot his first name.
The Kendrick Johnson case.
That's sad.
That was really sad.
Like, the picture of him inside the gym mat, is it just evidence so that the public is, like, outraged? Like, yeah, what the fuck?
I think that's part of it for sure. That one sucks.
But
they all suck, but that one hurt.
It's just, like, incredible. Oh my god, I don't know her name. The one where she is the only black woman at a sleepover with all those moms.
Oh, that one is also still, like, there's still a lot of her family and people who loved her. Tamala Horsford.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one I'm still very, like, interested in.
Well, because it's, like, it's still current enough, and, like, it just feels like you're so close because it's, like, it's current. We know all the people involved, as far as we know.
It also is just, like, this woman didn't
deserve anything.
She just also, like, it doesn't make sense that she just fell over. You know?
Yeah, and, like, didn't she call the husband, like, an hour prior?
That she was, like, I don't know if it was, like, that she was worried that they didn't like her or something. Like, there was already weird tension, though, between her and the other woman.
No, there was, but I think she called him to say goodnight or something. Like, just, like, see you in the morning.
Yeah, so it wasn't, like...
It was very much, like, she's not trying to commit suicide at this lady's house.
Well, I think they, what is it called? They, like, declared it... They declared it to be an accident. That, like, she accidentally fell over. It wasn't like that, like, she committed suicide or anything. It was, like, an accidental fall.
I mean, it's hard. I can't even imagine being the people who make these decisions and these calls. Like, being the autopsy person or a detective or the prosecutor, the DA. Like, these are very important jobs. And that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
Which, like, all power to them. That's a lot of pressure, but... I guess let's just get into our favorite creators because there's so many cases. But I think top of mind, like, one podcast that is my favorite right now is called Small Town Dicks. And it's the woman who's the voice of Lisa Simpson. Her podcast has two detectives from Small Town USA, as they like to say. So it's anonymous who they are, but they are detectives. One's retired and they're twin brothers. And they basically just talk about the back end and the actual work that goes into solving cases, which I find really interesting because most of the content that's out there is very much like from a society point of view, like this is all research, like, I found.
This is all the public information I could find.
Yeah. So not to say that any of these cases that they worked on are major cases, but I almost find it more interesting to hear about, not that they're mundane at all, but, like, not the widespread. They are just what's going on in the world or in the USA. And yeah, it's really cool to see, like, the thought process, because it'll be like, we got a call, this is the 911 call, this is how we got the person, this is the conversation, and this is why we asked questions like this, and this is why we treated them like this. Or
so do they go through only cases they have done?
Yeah. And then they'll have guests, so, like, other detectives from other parts of the U.S. come on. And just recently I listened to an episode that I thought was really interesting, and it was a guy who was actually convicted of a crime. They had him on the podcast, and when he was 14 years old, he murdered a 60-year-old man, and he had just gotten out. He served 18 years, and it was just a really interesting perspective. Yeah. I found it, like, really insightful to hear his side of things. And even the cops were like, you know, like, I really respect you owning up to what you did, and, like, hearing what you have to say, because he was very much like, I don't feel entitled to any of the things I have being free. He's like, I feel like I had to earn them, and rightfully so. Like, I did something awful to someone, and, like, now I just have to advocate for people in jail because, you know, if we're releasing people to the world again, we need to have like actual reforming happening in jail and programs that are helpful, which, like, you know, comes into all the tax dollars and all that, you know, stuff. But it's true, like, if we want a safer society, you can't make the inside of prison like a shit show and people just kill each other or get worse.
I think it's like, as a society, we've like gotten so comfortable with like just wanting to punish the criminals versus like I said, everything fucking probably comes from trauma. And like rehabbing people, I understand that, like, you know, there's lives lost and stuff, and that's definitely like, there's like a very thin like line of,
and it's not black and white either.
Yeah, like, it's just, I think overall, if we want things to change, it's rehabbing and changing the way that people are going to live their lives coming out. Or even if they're not coming out, how can we make them better inside? Like, it's no longer like, I think prison started as like a thing
place to put people somewhere.
But like now we're calling it like a rehab. Like, we want to rehab people, but like, it's not happening. We have to put those like things in place of like, and I think this is like a whole other topic, but like, it starts from the very fucking beginning of like teaching young children how to emote. Like, yeah,
he was talking about how he learned empathy in prison.
That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll link it because I thought that episode was really interesting, which isn't the entirety of the podcast.
Yeah.
It was like a very rare episode, but that's one of my favorites.
I don't really listen to like podcasting. I know that you do, so you can maybe speak more on that. But a creator that I really enjoy is Kendall Rae.
Kendall Rae, yeah.
She's one of those that I feel like speaks on current ones and
is helpful.
Is very helpful, and like her mission is to help solve cases almost. I think she does a really good job of being sensitive, giving a lot of good background information.
She has actual family members, like, either in her videos or giving her information.
Yeah. It's very direct to, like, the source of, like, what's going on. And I think she does it just very well.
Yeah, she does. I enjoy Kendall Rae as well.
Yeah.
Bailey Sarian, I think we both like. And she's one of those where I think about personality.
Yeah.
She definitely, I don't know, like, ups the ante with like her background in the videos and like she'll do her makeup. I don't know if she does it in all of them anymore. I think she has like a series.
She also has her own podcast now.
Is it the podcast with the video and she's like set up like the history one or something?
One. So she, I think also like in speaking about like how much can you do as a creator, like I think she maybe also started to feel a little bit down on speaking about so much murder, that like she started to speak on like just dark history of like the US.
Dark history, there it is.
And like just like the wrongful prosecutions or just like situations and just like interesting little tidbits of like history.
Yeah.
But anyway, she's a very personable person on that like platform.
She'll make jokes that like everyone's thinking but maybe wouldn't say because it's considered like a dark joke. Or
I think she also just her research, I think, is very good too.
Yeah, she's very thorough.
Bella
Fiore.
Does
she still do it?
I don't
Mondays?
know that she still do it, if she still does it.
I like
she was good though. I think she's another very like research driven person, and it was really good to watch.
I also watched Eleanor Neale on YouTube. She is British, I think. So she kind of does like a lot of British cases, which I enjoy.
Yeah.
But she'll do like US cases too. But I feel like she is very factual. I really love her accent, which is very surface level, but it just makes it really like engaging.
Yeah.
I mean, the podcasts that I think everyone knows is like Crime Junkies, Morbid. God, Crime Junkies came out with like 8 million podcasts under their network.
I'm sure I haven't got into it, but I'm sure there's like now TikTok creators that do it in a smaller
like mini-sodes or something. Yeah.
Kind of how like Teffy does pop culture. I think like there's probably somebody out there who does a series of sorts. Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah.
So if you know any of those, let us know. We'll follow them on TikTok. But
yeah,
I think that's all I can think of.
Yeah, gotta love a classic Dateline as well.
2020 vibes.
You know. Well, hopefully you found some of this relatable, or just like you're on the same page as us. Like, what's the right thing to do as a society when it comes to true crime? And, you know, I think we're closer to a balance than not. So
I agree.
Yeah. But we'll see you guys in our next episode, which is our 100th episode. Check us out.
Stay tuned for that one.
We're very excited. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye.